What's up guys, it's Oblivious Gamer here, and this video is my review on the game Kamen Rider Memory of Heroes, which recently came out. Now, I liked Kamen Rider, I'm a fan, so when I saw this game was announced for the PS4, I was really excited. And well, now that I played it, I would say the game is just okay at best. Personally, I would say I enjoy the gameplay, but that is where it ends. So you can see the game is not looking amazing. Graphic wise, it's pretty weak with bland looking environments that are repetitive and some issues here and there. Granted, as I always say, graphics aren't necessarily everything for a game to be good. And at least I feel the gameplay for me, it's fun even though the presentation for the game is really rough. I also want to point out before I continue, the game has problems. Like from time to time, I will encounter this problem when moving, where the character will be doing weird movements and getting stuck. Hell, when I started the game, it made it very hard to play because it was happening constantly. Once I rebooted the game, it did solve the problem for the most part, but I would still encounter it from time to time. I just want to comment about that before I continue with this video. Now, story. It took me 13 hours to finish the story mode, so not necessarily a long game. There's also a survival mode that you will unlock as you progress the story, where you will fight 10 different fights. Now, going back to the 13 hours, again, if there was a story heavy game or like the story was really good, it would be fine. But like I said, the story is just very weak. So it's 13 hours of a weak story. Now, the story for the game. This is just a brief summary. The story takes place in Sector City, an island brimming with unknown energy. The Narumi Detective Agency receives a request to look for Professor Ida, who is missing. So Shotaro, who is a Kamen Rider, well, he's the left-hand side of Kamen Rider Double, while Philip, who is his partner, is the right-hand side. Shotaro takes the case and goes searching for Professor Ida. As he's looking, he encounters a mysterious enemy known as Zeus, who is apparently behind everything that is happening since the island is filled with dopans, greeds, and other enemies. Shotaro's encounter set in motion everything. And throughout his quest to find Professor Ida, he will encounter other Kamen Riders like Oz and Zeta-1. And together they would try to stop Zeus and find where the professor is. Now, the story is not hard to follow and in itself not complex, even if you're someone who's not familiar with the Kamen Rider franchise. However, there are many characters, dopants, and greed that you will encounter, and they have history with a Kamen Rider, and they will interact with each other. And if you're not aware of their history, you will end up confused because there's also no explanation nor a way to get you caught that the game provides. The game assumes you're already aware. Like, for example, when Double encounters Nazca, they interact, and if you have never watched Kamen Rider Double, you will not be aware and understand their story, what they're talking about, and why Double has a hard time in this scene. So this game is not hard to follow. I would say the game treats you and assumes you have watched the respective shows. In the end, as I mentioned, I feel the story is weak and there's a lot of interactions you will miss if you haven't watched the show, with a twist at the end of the game that was very predictable. Now let's continue to gameplay. Here's where I think personally it's fun. So basically you have a weak attack, a strong attack, and a unique attack. You also have a dodge button and like a stamina gauge called RP. Using strong attacks, unique attacks, and the dodge button, we'll use the RP gauge, so you can't just be spamming strong moves per se. When you dodge, if it's properly timed, you will get the option to perform a counter attack. This can be very useful, especially during boss fights. Also, the game has a huge emphasis on combos and chains. As you can see, you will be great at starting from A all the way to triple S. Doing combos and extending your chain as much as you can and getting that triple S grade is important, because based on your grade and how long the combo was, you will be awarded points that are used to level up the Kamen Rider and develop skills. Now, the game can seem very simple and repetitive. It starts like that, but once each Kamen Rider starts unlocking their different forms, which some of them have a decent amount, I feel there is where the fun begins. And the game gets a little more open and complex with what you can do with each character, as you can switch mid combos between forms, and each form has their own unique moves and attacks. Some even have unique traits. For example, Kamen Rider Oz, when he's in his Sagosu form, you can block attacks, which no other form or rider can do. Or when he's in his Shouta form, which is the only form that can be used to dive. Kamen Rider Axel, when he's in his booster form, he can fly and you can use it to do combos. Like, there's just a lot here that you can experiment with and have fun. Sure, it's not something super complex, but I feel it's not as simple and repetitive as it initially starts, since the more you play, the more you will unlock and add to your arsenal. Boss fights can be fun, since this is where at least you get to find some challenging opponents, where you have to pay attention to the moves that they are doing and time a proper attack against them. Another thing to point is that there is levels. Every 2 levels, you will unlock a skill you can purchase. Now, these skills are not moves. Most of the time, they're just like buffs, for example, increasing damage for strong attack or more RP to use. The game also features some vehicle combat, but it's very lackluster and very streamlined. Also, there are not many enemy types, so you will be encountering the same enemies a lot. The game also has what's called accelerators, which are like buffs you will find as you're exploring with the help of your Don sensor, and you can develop and equip them to a rider, and they provide some sort of buff. Now, I feel this is very underdeveloped. You could only equip 1 accelerator per rider for the entire game, and that is it. I feel it loses the potential it had if it could let you put more accelerators in one rider and be able to mix and match and see what crazy things you can do. In the end, the game is an okay game that doesn't have anything necessarily that screams must buy now. I enjoy the gameplay, but I feel this is not gonna be for everyone. And there's a chance you will get bored, since it can be very repetitive, especially at the beginning, when you don't have unlocked much. So who is this game for? Well, with the story assuming that you have watched their respective show, it is clearly mainly aimed to Kamen Rider fans. And as I stated, newcomers can sure play without ever watching, but they will be missing and not understanding some character interactions, even though I feel a lot of these interactions are not relevant to the overall plot. I would say, unless you're a die-hard Kamen Rider fan that wants a new Kamen Rider game for their PS4, this is just a wait for sale. Even though the game is originally $49.99, however, it's only out in Asia, so that means most of us will have to pay for import fees. I feel even with that price, there isn't much that justify getting the game at that price with the amount of content the game has. So yeah guys, what are your thoughts? Have you tried the game? This has been Oblivious Gamer, and I hope you'll have a wonderful day or night wherever you are.